Good morning, grade 5s. Our last lesson on physical features of South Africa is going to be on waterfalls, bays, and capes. What is a waterfall? A waterfall is a cascade of water falling from a height. Falling from a height. And I'm sure you can see that water cascading down or falling down from a height. It is found when a river or a stream flows over steep slopes or a cliff. Okay, so this one is falling over a cliff. At times the water falls over steep slopes and a waterfall is formed. Maletsunyane Falls is found in Lesotho. It is the highest waterfall in Southern Africa. My next question is, where do you think we'll find waterfalls in our river system? Remember, we said our river has got its youthful stage, its mature stage, and its old age. In these three stages, where are you likely to find a waterfall? Remember, my definition of waterfall, I said, a waterfall is a cascade of water falling from a height. It is formed when a river or a stream flows over steep slopes or a cliff. And I did say that our river started, the source of our river is always in mountainous areas, high areas, and then here, during the mature stage, there's not much erosion, there's transportation and then deposition there. Where are you likely to find your waterfalls in these three stages? And why? Okay, you are likely to find your waterfalls in your youthful stage. It's up in the mountains where the river starts. Water needs to fall over a steep slope, and you can only find your steep slopes on this in this stage here. You can only find your cliffs in mountainous areas. So your waterfalls are going to be found in stage 1 or in your youthful stage. And then we move on to the next feature. And our next feature is the bay. A bay is another physical feature that we find in South Africa. A bay is a dent or a curve in the coastline. So a bay is a dent or a curve in the coastline. And I'm sure everybody can define what a coastline is now. Remember, we said a coastline is a line that divides the sea from the land. Okay? So when you get a dent or a curve in the coastline, we call that a bay. As grade 5s, I always tell you to have your own way of remembering things. And the easy way to remember a bay is to imagine a bee. For example, this is how I remember my bays. If I can write a bee, imagine writing a bee here. Okay, so B standing for bay. So that curve there becomes the front part of your B. Then you create that imaginary line there. Okay, and then depending on where the curve is, obviously here on this one you won't be able to create the B, but you can create a D. Okay, but you must have that curve that comes inland, that curve along the the coastline. So whether you are able to write a B or that D there, that is your bay. So the bay is that curve or that dent in the coastline. This is how I remember my bays. Then our next feature is the cape. Okay, so a cape is a piece of land, highland that goes into the sea. So the cape, where there are capes, there are bays. For example, in this picture here, can you see that dent that goes inland? Can you see that curve that is along the coastline? That will be your bay. But where there's a bay, there's always a cape. Okay, so the cape is a piece of highland that goes into the sea. So there is your piece of highland extending into the sea. There is your piece of highland that goes straight into the sea. Piece of highland that juts into the sea. So your cape will be the opposite of your bay. The bay curves in along the coastline, and then the cape goes into the sea. Question again. Where are you likely to find your cape and your bay? Are you likely to find the cape and the bay here, there, or there? Remember the definition? The bay is a dent or a curve in the coastline. Is there a coastline here? Is there a coastline there? Is there a coastline there? A coastline is a line that divides the land from the sea. So where is the sea? The sea is there, the land is here. So our bay is likely to be here. So obviously we said the bay is the opposite of the cape. So which means that our cape is also going to be around here. So you are likely to find your capes and bays in this part of your river system. Okay, so just to round up quickly, there is an activity that needs to be done on page, let's see what page it's on. Sorry about that. Activity 9 on page 35 and page 36. Okay, activity 9, page 35, right up to page 36. Keep going, grade 5s. I know it's not easy, but we'll beat the